Philadelphia Eagles select Jordan Davis.
Jalen Hurts.
Oh, it just got interesting, ladies and gentlemen.
Devontae Smith.
Landon Dickerson.
Jordan Mailata. Lane Johnson. Fletcher Cox. Brandon Graham.
The Eagles had an outstanding weekend.
Howie Roseman making magic, and they just always played it the right way.
Eagles always interesting on draft day.
Wait a minute, Eagles are on the clock.
The Eagles and Cowboys just made a trade together.
Oh, my God.
The Eagles are trading for A.J. Brown.
What are the Eagles up to?
There are going to be tremendous players who come out of this draft, and we got to find those guys, and we got to bring them to Philadelphia.
We'll be able to get guys in here that can maximize potential both offensively, defensively, and special teams.
Ready to be an Eagle?
The stage is set in Kansas City. It's finally here, Eagles fans. The 2023 NFL Draft. The road to the roster continues tonight. Who will Howie Roseman go after in the first round? Get ready to welcome new Eagles to the nest. Welcome to Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz Watson. I'm Ella DiGiovanni, joined by Fran Duffy and Ross Tucker. Fran, I gotta go to you first. You were jumping out of your seat. Your favorite day of the year. How are we feeling?
It feels like it's been a year since last year's NFL Draft. I'm so excited. This day is so long, and it's finally here. I'm so excited for this draft to get going.
And he's serious. Fran really is that excited. I can't ever remember this many people texting me, asking me, the ump at my daughter's softball game. Hey, Ross, who are the Eagles going to take? Like I know. I mean, we're all about to find out. It's going to be awesome.
We're certainly going to find out here in just a bit, and we'll get you set for the first round in just a minute. But at the conclusion of the night, don't go anywhere, Eagles fans. We'll be right back here providing analysis of the Eagles' first round moves, as well as hear from Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni. Join us on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our mobile app, and all social channels. While we're here, one lucky winner will also be selected to receive an autographed item from the Eagles' first pick. Go to www.PhiladelphiaEagles.com/draft sweeps or look on our show's comment section on social media for the link to enter. Now, that doesn't mean you, Ross. You can't go through the comments when we get off the air and enter the sweepstakes.
How did you know I was going to say that? I must do that every year. I must say, can I enter every year? She beat me to the punch this year.
Well, maybe we'll have a separate auction just for you, and whoever eats the most here in the studio can take it
Oh,
home.
I will win that.
I was going to say, we already know the winner. If you could go to Ross Tucker on Twitter, you can see everything that he's indulging in this weekend. All right? Well, 74 days ago, believe it or not, the Eagles were playing in Super Bowl 57. Howie Roseman is always thinking ahead, though. Having made a Super Bowl appearance, the Birds still have 2 first-round picks heading into the night. The 10th overall and pick number 30. Now, the last time a Super Bowl team had a top 10 pick was back in 1992 when Washington drafted Desmond Howard. One of my favorite quotes from Howie Roseman back at the Combine in March was, I don't wake up the morning after the Super Bowl and think, oh, well, now what am I doing with this roster in 2023? This is a year-long process. He is always thinking ahead and always building.
Yeah, and it's very similar to what Howie will always say at the end of training camp when everyone's talking about the final cuts. And he's like, oh, all right, final cut, now we're done for the rest of the season. No, team building is a year-round process. This organization has been looking forward to this day really since last year, so it's all culminated to tonight.
Well, and think about how unique this opportunity is. The last time a team in the Super Bowl had a top 10 pick, Ella wasn't even born yet. I mean, and the Eagles have 12 projected draft picks next year. They have already built this thing for the long haul, even though they were one of the best teams in football last year.
Well, speaking of the offseason, we certainly can't move forward here without mentioning some of the biggest Eagles news in recent weeks. The signing of Jalen Hurts to a contract extension that will keep the quarterback here in Philly through 2028. Fellas, the guy got paid.
And deservedly so, after especially what we saw in the Super Bowl the last time Jalen was on the field. But really what this means now is that this franchise has to take the next step in the team-building process. When you get that quarterback off of his rookie contract and all of that money gets allocated in his direction, well, now the draft becomes all that more important. You need more starters on those rookie deals to help spread that money around.
Yeah, but I would also say, Fran, you look at that contract, the first 4 years, the salary cap numbers are not that high. So getting it done allowed the Eagles to plan for the next 4 years, which is huge for them. Not only that, I think the deal already looks better. I mean, Lamar Jackson just signed a contract for more money. I'll take Jalen Hurts over Lamar Jackson 10 times out of 10.
Yep.
Very team-friendly, which is not uncharacteristic when you're dealing with Jalen Hurts, of course. In Howie Roseman's pre-draft press conference last week, he spoke about how important Hurts' contract is to building around him for years to come.
being able to work together to do things that were important to them and important to us. And for us, it's about flexibility around him. You know, this is the ultimate team game, and he needs to have talented people around him. And Jalen recognized that, Nicole recognized that. And so to be able to do this in a way that also gives us an opportunity to get good players.
The last time the Eagles had the 10th overall pick was just 2 years ago. Howie Roseman traded up for one of Jalen Hurts' favorite targets and longtime friend, wide receiver DeVonta Smith. And what an impact he's had in just 2 years, guys. Last season, over 1,000 yards, 95 receptions. He's been Jalen's go-to guy. I think it worked out pretty well at number 10 2 years ago.
Yeah, I would say Slim Reaper. That is a pick that hit. Look at some of these receptions just in this melt alone. Just outstanding at the catch point. Shows the ability to consistently create his own separation. DeVonta Smith, I would expect even more from him in year 3.
No question, and maybe we need to bring in even more of Jalen Hurts' friends. I mean, he's friends with DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown. That's a pretty good place to start. The beauty of the DeVonta Smith pick, by the way, that I always think about, they went over the Giants. First of all, they traded with the Cowboys, which is wild. The Giants were going to take him. Yep. Howie Roseman knew it, leapt over the Giants, and Giants fans are still upset about that.
The NFC East takes no days off, in season or not. There's always some chippiness going on. Well, here's a list of the last 10 selections made at pick number 10. What a list it is, guys. Of course, DeVonta Smith, like we mentioned. Patrick Mahomes was drafted at 10th overall. Garrett Wilson, he was last year's NFL rookie offensive player of the year. So I think you're in good company if you're drafted 10th overall, huh?
Yeah, you've got a great opportunity to add a blue chip caliber player to your roster. And guys, what I'm most excited about here in this draft is that this is going to be full of intrigue. I expect there to be a lot of movement. I expect there to be a lot of surprise picks, not just through the top 10, but throughout the entire first round here tonight. This is going to be a really fun draft, and it's going to start here in the top 10.
Well, and I think, Fran, that benefits the Eagles. I think people might trade up to try to get quarterbacks. Even the Houston Texans, most people think they'll take a defensive player at number 2. My guess is that means they move back up to get a quarterback in the top 10, pushing another good player down to Philadelphia.
As I mentioned, when the Eagles selected DeVonta Smith, they traded up to get him. Well, since 2010, Howie Roseman has traded up 7 times for their first pick in the draft. Look at this list. BG, Fletcher Cox, I mean, they are pillars here in Philadelphia. Dallas Goedert, he was one of the top performing tight ends last season. DeVonta Smith, like we mentioned, even last year, going up and getting Jordan Davis, who's going to make a huge impact for years to come.
It might sound like redundant, but when you trade up for a player, especially high in the draft, you are showing conviction in your evaluation of that player. And the Eagles, that is a hell of a hit rate right there, Ross. You're going to feel convicted to move up in round 1. They're doing a really nice job.
Yeah, I don't think any of those were bad picks. I mean, even if you say, okay, Andre Dillard, he just got paid a lot of money to be the left tackle for the Tennessee Titans. He couldn't beat out Jordan Mailata here, a 7th-round pick, but almost every one of those picks, when Howie moves up, it usually works out.
And when Dillard was called upon throughout his career here, he always answered the bell, so he was valuable for sure. Well, we're going to head over to the draft room where Eagles insider Dave Spadaro joins us from right outside. Now, we see him here outside the draft room, but just a little bit ago, I understand you were over at Lincoln Financial Field getting dunked in a dunk tank. Dave, what is going on with your night so far?
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, Ella. Draft party, lots of people at Lincoln Financial Field. All the proceeds benefiting Eagles Autism Foundation. So why not have some fun with the fans? Talk some trash to them. Sit in the dunk tank. I replaced Ike Reese in the dunk tank. I have barely a voice left because I was yelling so much trash at people. But boy, I thought it was going to be like 75, 80 degrees tonight. It's a cold night to be dunked on.
Love it, Dave. Love it. Well, we've gone through a good chunk of the offseason. How does the front office feel about where the roster stands ahead of the draft tonight?
Yeah, I think they feel pretty good about things. You know, actually quite good about things. They feel like they don't have to reach for a position tonight, and that's really important. You want to draft best players on the board that can help your football team rather than feel like you have a hole that you have to fill in the draft. And years ago, hey, we saw it with players. So it's something that Howie has talked about. He's gone away from that. You know, you learn over the years. But I feel like the Eagles and the Eagles feel, more importantly, that by going out in an interesting strategy in free agency, 1-year deals after retaining some of their very key players, they have come to the point where they feel like they can go out and play and be a very good football team. So when you talk about this weekend, it's about adding blue chip talent that fits in to the equation here, not that player must step in and be a starter right away. So very important that the Eagles addressed all of those areas of need prior to tonight.
Which side of the ball has more areas to address, do you think, through the next 3 days?
Look, I still think you always want to add offensive linemen. We don't know who the right guard will be, replacing Isaac Seumalo. Miles Sanders moves on in free agency. The Eagles bring in Rashad Penny. But otherwise, the offense is really quite complete. The defense still has areas that you can really address, and I think the Eagles will be interested in addressing defensive line, linebacker, the secondary, the safety positions with, 2 new players coming in to replace the starters from last season. So, Ella, to answer your question, I would say the defense is an area in total that you look at and say, yeah, this draft could kind of lean in that direction.
We were just talking about how anything is possible in these first 10 picks. No one knows what to expect. What do you think we're going to see here in night one?
Yeah, it is crazy. I really don't know. I've been up here for a while, spoke to Howie. We're going to get to that in just a moment here. And the expectation is to be ready for every scenario. And that's really the key to the Eagles' preparation, that there's going to be some movement in front of them with picks 1 through 9. Where will the quarterbacks go? Will there be some still on the board? How valuable will pick number 10 be for a team to move up in front of some quarterback idea teams, some teams that need some quarterbacks? So I think it's going to be a pretty wild and woolly 1 through 9. Eagles will be on their toes. And I think that this team has the flexibility and the assets to do what it wants tonight. The Eagles are playing from a position of power. They can go up, they can move back, they can stay at 10 and 30. But I think overall, ideally, if it all worked out perfectly, you'd try to acquire more picks. And we'll see if there's any options on the table that Howie thinks can improve the football team to add more draft arsenal to the Eagles in 2023.
I'm going to send Dave Spadaro on his way. He's outside the draft room. He was at the dunk tank, but then hours ago, he also caught up with Howie Roseman from outside the draft room.
Howie, we're finally here. It's draft night number 1. What is this time like for you in these minutes before the draft begins?
Yeah, I think you just got to get yourself ready for it. It's kind of like a night game for us, so you don't want to peak too soon, although I'm not going to lie, I didn't sleep great last night just because excitement. You got this the whole year. I'm sure all our fans are excited. We're excited too. So you kind of get through the day, try to do a workout, try to see a little family, and then get here, and a lot of phone calls during the day. We're certainly prepared. I think we're prepared. We have a really good process. We understand kind of scenarios. It never goes exactly what you want, but I think we're prepared for all those scenarios, and I think we'll come out of it really improving our football team.
Yeah, as you sit here 10 and 30, do you have a sense of how it's going to go?
Yeah, it's hard. I feel like we talked about it a little bit at the press conference. I don't really think anyone necessarily knows what we're going to do. I think that, probably do the same thing people do about us. They go, hey, this is what their history says they're going to do. We probably could assume that that's what they're going to be doing, but I'd like to think that we keep people off guard a little bit. I think for us, we're just going to try to do what we think is right for our team. And so whatever anyone else may think is right for their team, they should do what's right for their team. We're going to do what's right for our team, where our team is right now, where our team we want to be in the next couple of years. And so, I'm excited about that opportunity.
Picks 1 through 9, all we are hearing is that it's going to be unpredictable. I mean, do you get that sense, too, that there could be a lot of action in front of you that you just didn't see coming?
Yeah, I think the end result's what's most important, Dave, right? So by that, what I mean is that you want to make sure that you understand the value you have on the players. And at the end of the day, all you can do is control what's your option, what scenarios you've gone through to be prepared to pick 10. And I'm very confident that we've done that.
Pick number 10, Howie, how valuable is that pick for other teams that might want to come into that spot?
Well, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah,
right?
Give me a little.
Give you a little juice. You want a little juice? I think it's valuable to us first and foremost. And I think that if you go into the draft thinking about like what value I'm going to derive from that pick in a trade, I mean, there have been times where the phone's ringing and you got 3 or 4 calls, and I freaking may have to pull you in the draft room to take one of these calls. And there are times where you're going, ring, please ring, and you got to pick a player. And so we will not have that option. We'll be prepared. We'll be excited about who's on the board. And at the same time, I think it depends a little bit what goes on there, what the value other people have. And again, it's like anything in life, I'm trying to, the analogy I use in my scouts, maybe I won't use for our fans, but it's like food. I may go to a restaurant and think it's unbelievable, it's amazing, and the same person could go to that restaurant, probably not, but the same person could go to that restaurant and be like, it's okay, and that's how people see players, like a player that we see as unbelievable, some people may be like, he's okay. And I think for us, we just got to make sure we feel strongly about what we're doing.
Howie, thank you so much. Good luck tonight.
Good luck, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eagles Draft Central, presented by Dietz Watson, proud partner of the Philadelphia Eagles. Well, as it stands now, the Eagles have picks 10 and 30, like we mentioned. Do you guys think they will actually pick at those spots? Historically, we know Howie gets a little crazy in the first round. Do you think he's going to stick to it?
I got to think that the chances are super, super slim, right? I mean, what are the chances that they pick at 10 and 30? We just saw that graphic earlier with how often they've traded up. We know that they are apt to trade back as well, Ross. I think it's very, very unlikely they pick both 10 and 30 tonight.
I'd be shocked. And in fact, Fran, I'll take it another step. I think it's more likely they don't make a pick at either selection than it is they make a pick at both of those selections.
We mentioned the history with the top 10 pick. Well, here's the history in the last 10 years of the selections made at 30. Over that span, teams historically have targeted a defensive position. 5 of 10 of those were corners. Now, do you think the Eagles are going to stick with history and go defense late in the first round?
It really seems that way. I think when you look at a lot of mock drafts, especially from the bigger draft media types, one of the more popular players is running back Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. But outside of that, it's a lot of defensive ends, defensive tackles. You see a safety in there, some corners. So I think that they will probably carry true if that is going to lead you down that path. But I think it's most likely that would be a defender, Ross.
Well, and really, you look at almost any of these mock drafts, the guys going towards 30 are most of those defensive players. Maybe one of the 2 Clemson defensive linemen, maybe Forbes, the corner from Mississippi State, or Branch, the safety from Alabama. Those are the guys you see in the late 20s of most of the mock drafts that might be there for the Eagles.
Let's dig into some of these prospects. We're each going to talk and break down an offensive player that intrigues us heading into the night. Ross, you're going to kick us off. Who do you have?
I'm going with an offensive lineman. Surprise,
Shocker.
surprise. Hey, listen, they need an offensive lineman, and I love Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. So impressed by him the last couple years as their left tackle in Evanston. He does such a terrific job with his hands. He's a technician. I think he's a better athlete than he gets credit for. People talk about his arm length a lot, but it didn't seem to bother him in college at all. He actually reminds me a lot of Joel Bitonio, the Pro Bowl left guard for the Cleveland Browns. I think that's the beauty of Skoronski, is that I think he could probably be a Pro Bowl offensive guard if you want to put him there, but I would give him a shot at tackle first. He's so polished. You see the first team All-American. If Rashawn Slater, who was also a little bit undersized, was that good as a rookie for the Chargers, why can't Skoronski do it as well? Some of the same things you hear about Skoronski, you heard about Rashawn Slater, who was fantastic right away out in LA for the Chargers.
Yeah, I think sometimes when it comes to things like arm length, there's typically a little bit of over-analysis. There's that paralysis by over-analysis. And I think when you look at an offensive lineman, if you're starting with smarts, athleticism, and toughness, that's a good base to work off of, and I think you've got that with Peter Skoronski.
Well, just as shocking as Ross going offensive line, even more shocking, I'm going with a guy from Ohio State. And that's Paris Johnson Jr., tackle from Ohio State. He was a 2-year starter for the Buckeyes. But when it comes to Paris Johnson Jr., 2 things come to mind: durability and versatility. He has played every game the last 2 seasons with double-digit starts at both tackle and guard. So if you're a team that may need some help in both of those areas, he's your guy. 6'6", 313 pounds. He's just a pure athlete. He has good quickness, excellent lateral movement. He is nasty at the finish. He drives his guys back into that second level, really packs a punch. He was one of my favorite workouts at the Combine, Fran. We talked about him at length, just so clean and so crisp. He had just 1 penalty in 2022, and that was a false start. So you're getting a guy who's very smart on the football field. But all the football field stuff aside, off the field, his senior year of high school, he started a foundation, the Paris Johnson Jr. Foundation, that was set to empower and serve disabled veterans and disadvantaged student athletes. So you're getting a complete package when it comes to a prospect.
Yeah, not a fully realized prospect yet, but I think when you look at Paris Johnson, this is a guy that's got all the tools, and you mentioned the character. That's so important when you're trying to find out if a guy can reach his upside. And you mentioned the versatility to play both tackle and guard. Ross, that versatility is so important as well, that he could play both left and right side for his future NFL team.
Well, and I love the fact, Fran, that he was able to play both sides, and he's physical. Usually when you have that kind of length and those feet, those guys aren't always physical. He was very physical. He could fill 3 roles for the Eagles. He could start at right guard, he could be a swing tackle if they need it, and maybe even someday the heir apparent to Lane Johnson at right tackle.
All right, Fran, who do you got for us?
Well, I'm going to go on offense. I'm going to stick with a guy that's got a very easy scouting report. It's a 1-word scouting report: Bijan Robinson is a stud. He is outstanding in every sense of the imagination. When you're talking about an NFL running back, he is outstanding through contact. When you look at NFL running backs and you say, hey, a guy averages 4.4 yards a carry, that's fine. A lot of guys would be really happy with that number. When you look at Bijan Robinson last year for Texas, he averaged 4.4 yards per carry after contact. Ridiculous, outstanding ability to create his own yardage. And I think when you're looking at Bijan Robinson, his ability to create is what separates himself from other top backs, not just this year, but in recent memory. He can catch the football as well as anybody, no drops, despite being targeted way downfield on a number of his targets. He is outstanding in every sense of the word, Ross. Bijan Robinson, he's one of the best players in this class.
There is no question. He's an outstanding pass protector as well, which is really important. Yep. And I just did the math on my phone. Since you get 5 yards before contact, before the Eagles' offensive line, he would average at least 9.4 yards per carry with the number that Fran laid out. He's that good, in the Eagles' offensive line, especially with Jalen Hurts, is that good too.
It's that Ivy League education.
I was going to say, all right, we get it. You went to an Ivy League school, you could do math on the fly. We get it. All right, before we move to the defensive side, I want to give a quick reminder that one lucky winner will be selected to receive an autographed item from the Eagles' first pick of the 2023 NFL Draft. Go to PhiladelphiaEagles.com/draft sweeps or look in our show's comment section on social media for the link to enter. All right, fellas, defense, what prospect intrigued you the most? Ross, kick us off.
Well, I think I have to go with Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle from Georgia. He's arguably the best player in the entire draft. He is a physical phenom. You know, the last couple years, Georgia's had about a bazillion guys drafted in the first round, but you talk to scouts, even last year, they were saying, man, do you see number 88? Do you see number 88? Do you see Jalen Carter? He is that good. And you look at 6'3", 315, the way he plays, he actually reminds me of a young Fletcher Cox. So if you're trying to think of the type of player he is, that's who he reminds me of. Now, there are some off-field concerns, but that's why these teams in general, the Eagles in particular, spend so much time making sure they're comfortable with who Jalen Carter is off the field, because I'm pretty sure everybody is comfortable, Fran, with who he is on the field.
No doubt, and you make an all-pro comparison to Fletcher Cox. I'll throw another one at you, because he came from Apopka, Florida, Apopka High School, same exact high school as Hall of Fame defensive tackle Warren Sapp. And that's the body type, that's the skill set, one of those disruptive three-technique tackles. That's what Jalen Carter brings to the table, and that's why everybody feels he's one of the best players in this draft.
This is Fran's time to shine. This is where he pulls every fact he has out of the bag. Well, I'm going to stick with the Georgia guys. I'm going Nolan Smith, edge rusher from Georgia. And I was a 2-year starter with the Bulldogs. He did not play the second half of the 2022 season with that pec injury. But when he got to the combine, he blew the doors off the athletic testing portion of the combine, leading all front 7 defenders in his 10-yard split, his vertical, and that nasty 4.39 40 that he ran. Now, he was the former #1 overall recruit in the 2019 class. He just boasts an elite change of direction, a quick burst, excellent reactions time, great flexibility, loose hips, just a technically sound, strong, disciplined player. He was one of my favorite combine interviews, Fran. Yep. I know we talked about that back in March. He just was so passionate up there. He drew a crowd, I mean, naturally, but his personality made people stick around. And to make a little Eagles tie here, he was Nakobe Dean's roommate down in Athens. So they're very close. He said he owes a lot to Nakobe Dean.
I love Nolan Smith on film. I loved him last summer. He's highly athletic, but he's also a tough son of a gun as well. He's a great run defender. He is a power rusher that will go through you as an offensive lineman. He's nearly 240 pounds. He broke 4.4 in the 40-yard dash, Ross. Like, they didn't make him that way when you were coming out.
No, thank goodness, because I couldn't block him anyway. So I'm glad I didn't have to go against someone like Nolan Smith. You know, the Eagles could use another edge rusher. They never feel like they have enough. They have Josh Sweat. Brandon Graham is back. Obviously, Hassan Reddick. I love the idea of Nolan Smith learning from those guys, especially Brandon Graham and Hassan Reddick. The other thing about Nolan Smith that I love, you see the video of all the Georgia teammates when he was running the 40 at the combine. Yeah. They love that guy. That doesn't mean everything, but it means something about the type of person he is.
Certainly. All right, Fran, take us home. Who do you have for defense?
Well, you brought up Nolan Smith and how he was the #1 recruit back in 2019. Well, let's go to the #1 recruit in the 2020 recruiting class, and that's Brian Brzee, the defensive tackle from Clemson. Now, if this guy had played a full allotment of games the last 2 seasons at Clemson, he's a top 10, top 12 pick all day. 6'5", 300 pounds, fast off the ball, great against the run. He can line up inside, he can line up over tackle, he could do a number of different things for a defense, and that versatility so important. Now, he had an injury that cost him most of 2021. He missed a handful of games last year and it was never really 100% for most of the year for a number of reasons. But I think when you look at Brian Brzee, this is a guy that late in the first round, he's going to make a team very happy, Ross. It seems like somebody is going to get a steal in the back end of the first round.
Well, and I like that we're talking about Brzee because all the other guys we've been talking about are projected to be potentially there at number 10 for the Eagles. This is a guy that they'd be looking at number 30. You just don't see many guys 6'5", 300 pounds that move as well as Brzee does. And that's another position where the Eagles could absolutely add another body. He was the #1 ranked recruit for a reason. Love his versatility too. I mean, he could play nose, he could play the 3 technique between the guard and tackle. He could even bump out the defensive end in some fronts.
Okay, well, I'm being told that we have some breaking news, so we're going to head to Eagles insider Dave Spadaro from outside the draft room. Dave, I know nothing, so let us in.
Yeah, a late breaking news item here. Joint statement from the Philadelphia Eagles and the Arizona Cardinals. I'll read it. The Arizona Cardinals and the Philadelphia Eagles have agreed on the settlement of an issue concerning an instance of impermissible contact by Arizona during its head coaching search this past January. The Cardinals self-reported to the National Football League that general manager Monty Osifort had a phone conversation with then Eagles defensive coordinator Jonathan Gannon in the days following the NFC Championship game, a period during which contact is not permitted under the league's anti-tampering policy. To resolve this matter between the two clubs, the Eagles and Cardinals have agreed to swap third-round picks in the 2023 NFL Draft. The Cardinals receive Philadelphia's fifth-round selection in 2024. So the Eagles go from 94 in round number 3 to number 66 overall. So essentially the end of the third round to the beginning of the third round. And that is the late-breaking news.
So you just got that information. Is anybody saying anything where you are, or you just have that statement for us?
It is a statement that has been released, and that is all we have for you. It's something that obviously the Eagles will talk about following the draft when Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni meet the media after round number 1 tonight.
All right, and there's the statement right there. Wow. Okay.
The Eagles, I mean, that's a big move. You're moving up. What is it? It was about 30 picks in the third round. That's no small matter.
No.
It's almost a late second. Right. I mean, it's almost a late second round pick now as opposed to an early fourth. There's a big difference between those two picks.
Wow.
Yeah, it was not. When I went to him, I was told we had breaking news. That's not exactly what I had expected here. So we broke down our players here. We're getting ready for night 1 to begin, and it's finally time for the 2023 NFL Draft to get started. So be sure to join us right back here on Eagles Draft Central following the conclusion of the night. We'll break down all the Eagles moves and preview what's to come on day 2. You can catch all press conferences live on PhiladelphiaEagles.com, our official mobile app, and social media channels. Let's get ready to give young kids with big dreams a warm Philadelphia welcome. Thanks so much for tuning in to Eagles Draft Central. Enjoy the draft, and as always, go Birds.